welcome to your weekend warm-up for the Spanish Grand Prix. Lawrence Barretto, Sam Collins with me, Rosanna Tennant, and I cannot believe it's the 6th round of the championship, guys. Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, I can't wait. Like, Miami was some hell of an event, but I love Spain. The weather's great. We're going to get to see good comparisons between here and pre-season testing. I can't wait for this weekend.
And I'm imagining, Sam, you are looking forward to this weekend because there's the promise of upgrades, isn't there?
There's upgrades everywhere, and this circuit always brings lots of new technical stuff, which gets me very, very excited. But also, the food in this area of Catalunya is absolutely fantastic. It's great. So that's the other reason I really like being here. But yeah, upgrades and food. This is going to be fantastic.
Perfect. Well, aside from the jamon and queso, plenty to look forward to this weekend. Lawrence, we weren't in Miami, so it is your duty, my amigo, to do the 90-second recap of the Miami Grand Prix. Are you ready?
Okay, all right. Ready.
3, 2, 1, go!
Charles Leclerc started on pole position for the 3rd time that season. He led away from the line. It wasn't so good for Carlos Sainz. He lost some ground. Max Verstappen got past him into P2, started hunting down Charles Leclerc, eventually passed him. It looked like he was going to sail off into the distance, and then we had a safety car. When Pierre Gasly had a bit of a problem with his car, he collided with Lando Norris. That brought out the safety car. That neutralised the race. The top 3, Max, Charles and Carlos, stayed out on hard tyres. Checo pitted, took medium tyres. He could have put pressure on Carlos, didn't quite work out. That's how it finished in that order. Behind them, you had George Russell. He made his way up from P12 to P5. Lewis Hamilton was P6. Valtteri Bottas should have been P5, but lost both places to the Mercedes to drop to P7. Esteban Ocon was 8. Then Alex Albon was promoted to 9th. He was 10th, but Fernando Alonso got a 5-second 10 penalty. And Lance Stroll, who started from the pit lane, came 10th.
That was a fantastic recap. I don't think we even got to time. But Lawrence, you fitted everything in. Impressed.
He didn't get the post-race penalties in there and the points that various drivers
Sam.
accumulated, which I think
Fiesta
we'll talk about in a
I thought that was lovely. Thank you very much. Trying to relive the Miami Grand Prix, but now we're here in the pit lane for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's a lot cooler in the pit lane right now. Out on the start-finish straight, in the paddock, it is scorching. And I'm just thinking about the timings. Quali time, round about now on Saturday. This heat's going to play into the strategy, surely.
It really is, and not so much on the strategy on race day. That's where the tyre temperature, the tyre degradation will be a factor, but also the way the cars are set up. Because if it's so hot as it is today, the teams are going to have to trade off cooling versus aerodynamic performance, so drag down this very long straightaway, and that's going to be a really big challenge for the teams to manage, because by opening up that cooling, you create drag and you lose top speed. Teams like Ferrari, they lose out huge top speed against this team here, Red Bull Racing.
Well, we've just walked away from Mercedes, where there's been a lot of chatter over what's going to happen this weekend for them. Is this going to be the time they sort of rise from the ashes? Is this the resurgence? What do you think, Lawrence? Can they get it back on track?
I think they're hoping that they can get it back on track, but I don't think it's going to ever be a silver bullet. I think we're going to see little improvement weekend in, weekend out. So I wouldn't go into this weekend, and I don't think the team are going into this weekend thinking that whatever new pits that they've bought is going to make that massive step. But I think they just want a greater understanding of the car that they've got so that they can get more of the performance out of it. At the moment, I think they are, and they admit this. They're just lacking understanding of how it works.
I think we were all lacking a bit of understanding in Miami, the sort of yo-yo performance effect, George Russell topping the timesheets, and then it all kind of coming undone. Where do you go as a team if suddenly it's performing and then suddenly it's not, suddenly it is?
Miami was a weird one because the track was evolving so much through the race weekend. The surface was changing and developing. They were resurfacing one of the corners. That's going to change the performance in a big way as well. But I think for Mercedes, we've heard a lot of rumours, and my information is that it's correct, that the last time we were at this race circuit for the pre-season running, Mercedes had a very different looking car. They had conventional side pods.
The fatter side pods.
Wider car. And the other team's wider cars seem to be going quicker. So Mercedes, I think, if this change that they're bringing here doesn't work properly, they won't be able to change it, I don't think, in time for Monaco. But by the time to get to Azerbaijan, I think we could see Mercedes reverting to almost a race zero specification, starting the project over again. That does sound drastic, but all the learning from these cars feeds into next year's car as well. So it's not all lost for Mercedes yet.
Yeah, a lot of chatter about whether they focus their attentions on 2023. But let's move on now to Red Bull, who are behind us. Of course, Max Verstappen still chasing down Charles Leclerc. A bit of a word on Checo Perez. becoming a dad again to the beautiful little Emilio. That was well timed, wasn't it? In between Miami and Spain.
Yeah, it worked out perfectly for him. I don't think he's got that much control over it, but you're right. At least he doesn't have to miss a race.
Let's move on. Well, they're obviously very busy in the Red Bull garage. I caught up with Max a little earlier on to find out how he's found the season so far.
I think we just have a team working really well on track, but also back at the factory is very efficient. And I think that, of course, with the cost cap is very important. And I think we're definitely one of the best on the grid with that. But of course, with the cost cap, it's still very new for everyone, right? So everyone is, I think, also finding their way a little bit.
And where do you think you're struggling then? Are there any weak spots that you're having to work on harder than others?
I think there are always things we can do better. And I think at the moment, the main one for us is reliability. So we just try to get on top of that first.
Looking ahead to this weekend, circuit that you know very well, as do most of the drivers on the grid. How do you think your car will go on a track like this?
I mean, what I've seen so far from this season, normally we should be competitive. It's just going to be whether we find a good balance in the car, and that means are we first or second or whatever as a team. And you never know, other teams bring big upgrades. Where will they end up? Here, of course, everyone knows the track a lot more, so probably it will be even closer together. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend, and I do think it can be a good one.
While we were listening to Max Verstappen, we were walking between the Red Bull garages and the Ferrari one, and we were chased down by Paul Monahan. What was he asking you?
Paul Monahan wanted me to go and stand by these Ferrari front wings and just stand quite close to them. And the reason was, it was a bit of a joke, but it's something F1 teams have done in the past. They take a measurement off a human being, a normal-sized human being normally, and then calculate the dimensions of the part they're looking at so they can just understand what their rivals are up to. I've even heard it said that some of the team uniforms have measurements along the legs so they can go and stand next to something so they can just get an accurate measurement across it. And that's what he was a bit of a jest, but then again, sometimes they'll take any advantage and look at our footage and any footage and photos available just to see what their rivals are up to. But I don't think those front wings are new.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Of course, lots of chatter about Ferrari and what they're bringing to the track this weekend. We haven't really seen much development from them so far in 2022. What's the latest? Do you know?
Yeah, well, they've got new rear wings. We do know that. They've been experimenting with new floors. They had new front suspension on the car in Imola. There's a few new bits to come as well that we haven't seen. I've heard about the width of the side pods. Looking behind us, I'm not quite seeing that yet. So we'll see when the cars actually come out to play for free practice what new bits they've got on top of that. But I do think Ferrari feel the need to fight back against Red Bull just to try and close that pace gap, because it does look like Red Bull do have the edge at the moment.
It sounded a little bit at the end of the Miami Grand Prix that Ferrari perhaps didn't push Red Bull as much as they could have in Miami. Do you buy into that argument?
Yeah, I think they feel that they've probably dropped back, like Sam was saying, probably a couple of tenths, I think, is what they feel is what they're behind Red Bull. And they will hope a lot of what they've brought here will help make up that deficit, especially as, like you said, Rosanna, they haven't really updated the car this year. So for them to bring a big package here is quite significant, and it needs to make progress because they've started the season so strongly and they don't want it to start to fall away like it has done in previous years.
Well, big pressure on the guys in red this weekend. Charles Leclerc leading the championship. New upgrades, will they or won't they bring more performance? And of course, Carlos Sainz, home hero. A lot of people thinking, might this be the weekend that he takes his first win in Formula One? You spoke to him a little earlier on.
It's the feeling, of just driving at home. Maybe you give that extra tenth that you might have inside yourself, no? And that is so special. It's very difficult to transmit in terms of feelings, but you have better vibes around you. You're in a good mood. There's people wanting you to do well, and I think this gives you an extra boost.
And you come in here with some momentum after difficult races in Australia and Imola. How did you turn it around?
You can either turn it around little by little or all of a sudden, no? With a win here, that wouldn't be too bad. We're coming off the back from a podium in a difficult race in Miami. But I've been feeling better with the car recently. I think as you saw in qualifying in Australia, Imola, here in Miami, I was feeling a bit more at home, fighting for the pole position, and I think if I can get my head around this circuit with this car around here, then I will be in the fight for sure.
onto McLaren, and I feel like there needs to be a bit of a bounce back off Miami. Do you think this is a circuit where they can do that? I mean, looking back at testing, Lando was top of the timings.
Yeah, they ran really well here in pre-season before it all kind of went a little bit pear-shaped in Bahrain with the brakes. But I do feel like Miami aside, they've got a bit of momentum, and they'd kind of always targeted this race as where they were going to bring a host of new bits, which I'm sure Sam can eloquently talk
Come on,
about.
then. Upgrade it.
You mentioned the brakes. They had that brake cooling problem. It's blighted them all since the last time we were here in the very cold months. Well, they've changed the brake package here for the Spanish Grand Prix. They've gone away from these metallic shrouds inside the cake tins at the front, gone back to carbon fibre. Well, we'll see if it works, because if it doesn't, we could be having big problems for that team again. They've bought a whole bunch of different front wings. You can see them behind us, different packages. But this is a circuit that every team is going to be bringing at least a few new bits to, just because they've had so much running on this circuit. They need to be able to do back-to-back evaluations on what the car's doing, even though it's much, much hotter here. But McLaren, they do need that big step, because they still haven't really solved the problems they started this season with. And that's just a big lack of downforce.
Well, someone else who needs to perhaps just make a big step in terms of scoring points is Fernando Alonso, of course, another home hero, the Spanish crowd. Imagine it, if he was on the podium alongside Carlos Sainz. I mean, wow, this place would go off. But 2 points only for Fernando in a car that is definitely worth more than that on the point scoring system.
Yeah, I think that's why he's so frustrated, because he was challenging for pole position in Australia and obviously didn't come off. He's had a car very strong, actually, in particular in qualifying trim. It kind of falls away a little bit in the race, and talking earlier today to Esteban, he was saying that they are starting to find solutions to carrying that pace from Saturday through to Sunday. But yeah, I feel for Fernando, because really I think he's driven better this year than he has done since he's come back, and he just hasn't got the points to show for it.
Well, the team principal Otmar Zafnar saying that they need to finish in the points with both cars. Of course, Esteban Ocon behind me as well, capable of doing that. So hopefully a stronger weekend for Alpine. And Lawrence was chatting to Esteban earlier on today.
At the moment, I think we are performing well. Of course, there are still quite a few areas that we need to work on. I think we are a bit quicker in qualifying than we are in the race. And yeah, we are working on reliability, obviously, with the car, and it seems to have been, a stronger asset out of us. So that's good. And yeah, it's a track that we know all by heart. So it's going to be interesting to, just feel, where everyone is and where everyone is bringing updates as well.
Do you feel like the team is starting to get a handle on why you guys are stronger in qualified and can't quite carry that through to the race?
Yeah, I think we are working on that. And to be fair, I think in Miami we already saw a step in that direction. I mean, I started from quite far back, managed to get into the points, and the performance was pretty decent on lap time. So yeah, we should keep going like this.
AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda. Pierre with a hole in his floor in Miami, but I think some positives to take away from it. They're best qualifying as a team. So if they can build on that, potentially some big points here this weekend.
It's so difficult to say. I think there is definitely potential. I feel like if they can operate that car efficiently, there's no reason why. But you could probably say that about all of the midfield teams, right? It'll be interesting to see what updates they bring here. The drivers were talking earlier and saying that there is nothing new on the car. We'll find out, of course, tomorrow
he's just
when the
shaking his
document
head.
comes out. He doesn't fancy that.
You don't come you don't come to Barcelona and bring absolutely nothing new. I think that's more likely that the engineers have bought some new bits, but they're not interesting enough or visual enough to tell the drivers and have to bother explaining it to them. The engineers will have put new stuff on that car. Every car in this field will have at least some new parts on. We just might not see them all.
Okay, well, we will have to get our eagle eyes out to try and find them on the AT03. Aston Martin, however, I feel like they need an overhaul.
Yeah.
Are they going to get it this weekend, Sam?
Some of it, yes, definitely.
It's like an orchestra has suddenly struck up in the village.
There are some new parts on the AMR 22s. Now, there is some speculation whether these new parts are going to appear on both cars. I can see on Sebastian Vettel's car just next to us that there are some of the new parts on Vettel's car. So they've got new side pods on it, there's some other new wing bits, there's some aero stuff. We still haven't seen everything yet. But I think Aston Martin's biggest challenge is actually to go on a bit of a diet. The car's overweight, like many in the pit lane, and it does
Aren't
need
we all?
to...
It's the Hamilton and Kessler.
Exactly. But the car needs to gain a bit of speed and lose a bit of weight, and that's the big challenge for the AMR 22. I don't think they're going to deliver that whole package here, because it's such a push to get every new bit on the car. that I think they're still going to be bringing developments in Azerbaijan. Obviously, there'll be a Monaco package, but actually, until we get to Aston Martin's home race at Silverstone, I don't think we're going to see the big differences.
Yeah, it's been tricky for them, hasn't it? What have you got from Lance and Seb over the last fortnight or so in Miami? You were obviously interviewing them.
General frustration, really, because I think they entered this season with so much hope, and it really hasn't delivered. And obviously, it was an electrical issue that they got sorted that forced the pit lane start, but that's obviously never ideal, particularly after a stronger qualifying for Lance. But the way that they came through the field, there's definitely plenty of positives. I'll be careful of this cabling.
It's usually me minding my head, but I'll mind yours, don't worry.
Ah, thanks.
Rosanna, I just want to point out one upgrade that William to an Exos have got. He's just walking out behind us, but he's yes, it's a rather different.
Well, we're coming on to Williams and the big news, as you say, Sam. Nick de Vries, Formula E champion, and winning in Formula E as well, still very good last weekend. He will be in FP1 tomorrow, sitting in for Alex Albon. Great, isn't it? We've got to see some young drivers taking part in FP1 sessions. Have you had a chat with Nick yet? I mean, he's probably incredibly busy. He's sorting out his seat. There we go. Last minute prep.
Well, that's actually really important because we've seen the rear of the Williams is partial to getting a little bit warm. And we've had complaints from Alex Albon that his posterior got a bit toasty a couple of points this season. So
not like Valtteri Bottas's, which has been cooling itself down.
Well, quite. And mountain streams do have that effect. But Nick de Vries there will have, he's being really precise with his mechanics there, just trying to work out exactly how he's going to be comfortable in that Williams for his first really significant running in that car.
Well, really exciting to see him. And we've got a couple of changes up and down the grid. We've got Robert Kubica in as well for Zhou Guanyu. And we've got Yuri Vips
in for
Red Bull. He's replacing Checo. Yes.
Checo, yeah.
There we go. Got to keep up with all the choreography that's going on in FP1. Pierre Gasly running up and down the pit lane. And actually, we've got Robert Kubica. If we just spin around, we see Robert there saying hello to a fan. There he is. So he'll be in FP1 as well. As we move down to Alfa Romeo, and what a change from when we were here in February. So many issues for Alfa Romeo. When they were running that sort of camo livery, they weren't really launched. It was all a bit pending, wasn't it, the performance? What a bounce back.
Oh, it's been incredible. I reckon they've been one of the teams of the season, really, for me so far in terms of what they managed to get out of the package. And then internally, I think they're just a bit disappointed they still haven't got as many points as they could have done, because this is a very good race car. You've seen Valtteri Bottas generally make the most out of it. You've seen Joe have real consistency on the fringes of the top 10, if not in the top 10 to start with. I'm very impressed with these guys right now.
Yeah, I think on a similar kind of topic as Fernando Alonso, I would kind of hope that Joe would have more points to his name by now, because I think the car is capable of it, and he's a cracking driver as well. But I had a chat with Valtteri Bottas earlier on. He was talking about getting his posterior out in the mountain stream, as you mentioned, Sam. And actually, there's going to be some amazing news, because some of that artwork, shall we say, has been on sale for charity. And Valtteri will tell us more over the course of the weekend. But let's listen to what he had to say to me earlier on.
Testing, wasn't great for us. That's no lie. But the bounce back has been really, really good because of hard work and dedication. And especially once we got the first points in Bahrain in the first race, you could really feel and see the motivation and the spark in people's eyes, and I think that has been the drive for us to stay on top of our game and do improvements. There's still things we need to do better. Still, reliability is not 100%, but it's way better than in testing. Of course, nowadays you can do virtual things, but also I've been regularly at the factory and always trying to give my feedback, but also at the same time I always try to motivate the people I work with and try to get most out of the people around you.
It might be an obvious question, but why do you think there was so much pressure last year?
Many external factors, I think. Just maybe also not sure if I still have a job coming here or not. Could make a difference. But it's in this sport there can be many external factors, external pressure sources, but now there's none.
Well, good luck this weekend, and perhaps a little selfie, or what do we call it? A bottom Elfie? What do we call it?
I don't know. You decide.
Well, we'll keep an eye out, sort of, for more pictures of you in the wild. Bottas in the wild.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram.
Thank you very much. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
And we've reached the end of the pit lane, a rather breezy end of the pit lane. Apologies for my hair. I thought it was a little calmer out here, but not down here at pit exit. Haas, Kevin Magnussen and Mick Schumacher. Obviously, Kevin Was he here or wasn't he here for testing here? I'm kind of losing track on the...
So he wasn't here for Barcelona, but
he was here
in
for
time
Bahrain. There we
yeah.
go. So he hasn't actually driven this new gen car on
Not
this
around
track.
here.
So that's a little bit of learning. But of course, it's a track that they all know so well. So kind of still okay.
There have been some little changes, haven't there? There's the new curbing that's been put in around the circuit, and there's just a few details that he'll need to get used to, because he was off playing with Indy cars when everybody else was out playing on this track earlier in the winter. But that car just needs to find its sweet spot again. They started the season so strongly, but I think they've gone the wrong way on setup, and it's not about car development. They just haven't found where that car's working again, so they need to get it going again
And
properly.
they were your ones to watch, weren't they?
They still are.
Okay, fine. All is not lost. Okay, that's great news. Well, ones to watch definitely this weekend. Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen. But now that we're down at this end of the pit lane, you know what that means? It's prediction time. So who's going to go first? Who would like to go first?
Okay, I'm going to go Charles, Carlos, Fernando.
Okay, lovely.
There we go. How about you, Sam?
I'm going to go Carlos, Fernando, Charles.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not left you with many options.
Well,
here
I'm
if you
going something a
go-
bit different. I am going to go for Carlos. I think that would be the nice one, won't it? Then I think this is a bit random, but Daniel Ricciardo, because I feel like a comeback from McLaren, and then Fernando Alonso in third.
No Red Bulls there.
No, I think
None
that
of
might be an
us.
issue.
No
Who knows?
Mercedes?
Who knows? No, I don't. It'll all be wrong, and we all know that. But I just thought I'd go for something different. Be a nice, varied podium. Well, there you go. As we always say, that will never come true. But that's all for your weekend warm-up ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. We'll be here all weekend, bringing you more and bringing you behind the scenes. But from Sam, Lawrence, and from me, it's goodbye.